Algebra 2 Honors, Lesson 6.2, Solving Quadratic Equations by Graphing. Before we get too far into this lesson, you're going to need a graphing calculator. It looks something like this. And I got to make it a little smaller so that it'll fit in the screen. All right, something like that. And we're going to use this to do the work today, so be prepared for that. So, solve quadratic equations by graphing. I don't like this. This is where the powers that be and myself go different. I'll come back to what I'm talking about in a minute, but the quadratic equation is what we just did, ax squared plus bx plus c, but instead of equaling y, it's an equation. It's got an equal sign. It equals 0. And we're looking to find where that equation hits the x-axis. Those are called the zeros. And I'll come back to that in a moment. So the difference between this is no f of x or y. Instead, we have a 0. And this a cannot equal 0. If it were to equal 0, then you would not have a quadratic. You'd have a linear equation. So a lot of problems say, where does the graph of the quadratic hit the x-axis? And these solutions are called zeros, x-axis, intercepts, solutions. Sometimes they're called factors, even though they really aren't factors. Things like that. Roots, all the same things. So when you have a graph, it could hit twice and have two what we call real solutions. It could hit once where it just barely touches. And have what we call one real solution. And it could not hit at all. And have what we call no real solutions. So lots of options here. So let's graph one and find the solutions. Now, you can turn this into anything you want. Personally, I like to bring the x squared over and the 8x over so that I have x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals 0. But if we're looking for solutions, you could have left them alone and written negative x squared plus 8x minus 16 equals 0. These would both work to find your solutions. One would just be upside down compared to the other one. So for the time being, we're going to work on the one above. So we go to graph it. And to graph it, we need the vertex. So we'll do some work over here. Negative 8 over 2 times 1 equals 4. So we're going to have an axis of symmetry there. And I'm going a little bit crazy here. Plug it back in. We get 4 squared equals 16. And no, I'm not done. Minus 8 times 4 minus 32 plus 16 plus 16. In this case, that's going to equal 0. So we're at 4, 0. We know it's going to hit at 16, which is way up the line here, so it'll be up there somewhere. And that does it. We're done. X equals 4 is our root. That's it. Wish it was more exciting than that, but we'll get there. So let's try a different one, x squared plus 6x plus 8. And again, we're doing it by graphing because a lot of people look at that and go, oh, obviously you'd want to factor that. And we'll get to that lesson soon enough. Find the axis of symmetry at -3. Plug it back in. -3 squared plus 6 times -3 plus 8, -1. Down here, -1. You know it's going to hit at 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is up here somewhere. Sorry, I want to change colors here. And now you look at it and you say, well, it's going to hit somewhere here, but I'm not sure where. I mean, is it here? And then on the other side, is it between those? And you don't know. You can guess and you can do some numerical stuff, but forget that. That's why we got the calculator. So we have x. I have to move this up a little bit. Squared plus 6x plus 8. We enter it. And then we graph it. It gives us that, which looks a lot like the question we're looking at. So the question is, how do we find those roots? And it's actually pretty easy. Hit the second, trace, so calc right above trace. And we say we want the zeros, the roots. This is why I told you what all those things were. And it says, well, what's the left bound? And we're going to go for the left one first. You can see what I call the spider. It's little crosshairs. It looks like a spider to me. Going across, so say it's between that and about that. And we guessed right about there, and it says 0 is -4, 0. So hey, we got lucky. 1, 2, 3. Here is -4, comma 0. That's one of the roots. X equals -4. We go to the other one. Second, calc. Want the 0. And let's pick the left bound. See, it's asking for left bound here. Yeah, that's to the left of it. Now the right bound, so we get to the right of it. That's to the right of it. And then we kind of guess close to it. It says that -2. So it looks like we got lucky twice. We kind of guessed that it was going to be at -2. For those who haven't figured out, I'm highly sarcastic. And of course, I graphed it by factoring it real quick. So we have x equals -4 and -2. So that's factoring. Now, what I'm getting at is telling you, use the calculator. It's a wonderful tool. If you can do it simpler or other ways to cross-check and double-check and make sure all your work ties together, great. But your calculator's there to help you, so you might as well use it. So, here's another one. Again, I like to move everything over. X squared minus 6x plus 10 equals 0. And we do all this work. I'm not in the mood. I'm just going to graph it. I always forget what the actual equation is. Minus 6x plus 10. X squared minus 6x. And I know you're probably having trouble seeing this. I'll fix that in a moment. I don't know why it flopped up there. There we go. X squared plus 6x minus 10. Minus 6x plus 10. Graph it. And now, we didn't have to figure out the vertex or anything. We'll look at it and say, there's no real solutions. It's up here somewhere. Now, I won't go into this. I'll leave it up to you. But this is why I led up to this. How would we approximate? This is what I'm telling you. Use your calculator. There's no way to factor this. It's not going to work out perfectly. just use your calculator. It'll save you all the problems in the world. That's it. Play with this. It's a pain. It's time consuming. It's a lot of work, but figure it out. Make sure you know how to use it. It's a handy skill to have to know how to use. Good luck.